Hi guys, wow, just wow. I think the Conservative Party have lost one of its supporters in a pretty dramatic way. Now, Iain Dale, the host of an LBC show, was on the Any Questions panel, along with Nick Gibb, Tory MP. Now, Dale delivered a stinging assessment of the Conservative government's actions surrounding the Baby Stockholm, and both Lee Anderson's language directed at asylum seekers and Number 10's defence of it. Amazing stuff. Have a listen to this.
This is a government that is absolutely week in, week out, tackling these great problems facing our country.
Well, you can have a Stop the Boats week all you like, but if on the first day of that week you have the idiot deputy chairman of the Conservative Party telling migrants to F off back to France if they don't like the barge, and not just that, but you have the Secretary of State for Justice going on the media defending it, and then Number 10 approving it. That is a disgrace.
I mean, Lee Anderson isn't on the panel, but Nick Gibb, you are. What do you make of that, and what do you want to say in response?
Well, I don't agree with the language that Lee Anderson used, I'm afraid. I don't like that kind of language used by public figures on the airwaves that children can hear. We're trying to improve behaviour in our schools, and I would prefer people to use more moderate and less profane language. But he is making an important point that we have to build in deterrence for people making that illegal crossing across the English Channel, where children and adults are dying, and then the Illegal Migration Act, it will actually,
but that wasn't the point he was making.
Work
No.
to prevent those crossings from happening.
It's interesting that when Nick began to speak and describe how the government is doing everything, the clapping was quite muted. But when Iain Dale delivered his stinging criticism of the Tories over the last number of weeks, I think it was almost a standing ovation. But what's interesting here, of course, is Iain Dale seems to be deserting the Conservative Party. It's a disgrace. This isn't something a supporter would normally say. So I don't know if he's still going to vote for the Conservatives at the next election, but this responds to what's happened last week with the barge and everything, and 30p Lee Anderson telling asylum seekers to F off back to France, and the response from the Conservative Party. You even heard it here from Nick Gibb. Yeah, he criticised the language used, but he still supported the message. And the Conservatives have rallied around Lee Anderson. Lee Anderson, of course, is trying to make a name for himself. He doesn't really care about the Conservative Party at this stage. He knows he's out of a job. He wants a job politically. He wants a job in media, perhaps, or something. And this is about boosting his career prospects, and boosting his image with headbangers, of course. But I think going forward, we're going to see the Conservative Party tear itself apart, because when Rishi Sunak loses the next election, it's highly likely. It's not impossible, but it's highly likely that he will lose it. What's going to happen to the party then? Well, the far right will blame the moderates for being too moderate, and the moderates will blame the far right for sinking the Conservative Party. And you can trace this back to the times of Boris Johnson listening to the far right in the party, the ERG at the time, and then all the other headbanger groups that came after that. This is a big problem for the Conservatives. On the surface, they seem united, but there's a lot of infighting between the far right and the more moderates. The supporters seem to support the far right candidates, while the MPs prefer to have somebody more moderate. That's why Rishi Sunak was believed to be the best of the last three, and he is the best of the last three. But the bar has been set really low. Now, who can take over? Well, either some far-right figure like Suella Braverman, or somebody a bit more moderate like Tobias Ellwood. But either way, the Conservatives are not going to be united. And when they're in opposition, I think this infighting is going to continue. And the longer the infighting continues, the more it's going to turn off potential voters or existing Conservatives who generally vote for the Conservative Party. It's going to be a bit of a mess. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.